I welcome you today on this webinar where we are going to discuss about emotional intelligence and interpersonal effectiveness. Before we delve deeper into the concept, I would like to introduce myself to you all. My name is Shivangi and I work as a clinical psychologist with one of the leading companies that works for the mental health foundations, that is Emo Needs, which is based in Gurgaon. So, the contents that we'll be covering today in today's webinar would be what is intelligence, what are emotions, what is emotional intelligence, how do we develop emotional intelligence, and what is interpersonal effectiveness and how to develop the same. So, to understand about intelligence, because it's a concept that we need to have a basic understanding for in order to understand emotional intelligence in a deeper sense, as emotional intelligence is constitute of two words, emotions and intelligence. So we will be understanding each word separately and then together what constitutes emotional intelligence. So intelligence, as per Dreschler, who is one of the pioneer who gave the concept and made a wide variety of knowledge and understanding regarding the concept itself. So, as per him, it is our aggregated global capacity which helps an individual to act purposefully towards any purpose in life, think rationally about anything, and deal effectively with the environment. So, all of us, irrespective of what education background we are from, how much study we have done, still people who have not got formal education, जिनके पास कोई डिग्री या फिर किसी तरीके की प्रॉपर एजुकेशन नहीं है, स्टिल अगर दे आर able to act purposefully, think rationally, and deal effectively with the environment would be considered intelligent enough. Then there's multiple theories that has been given for intelligence. The most famous and the recent one is multiple intelligence theory, which was given by Gardner. As Gardner has explained intelligence on variety of scales. Like usually what we understand about intelligence is that anybody who is scholastically good or is performing good is considered to be intelligent. But he has recognized that an intelligence is a concept that has various adaptive abilities, out of which one is linguistic, in which we try to learn to understand and as well as express ourselves through the use of language. So people who are good at communication are considered to be as one part of the intelligence reasoning. Second is our logical expectations. So many of us who feel that they're not that much inclined toward mathematical or reasoning or analyzing, all these things are one component of intelligence. So basically it is the logical component of the intelligence. Then there comes the spatial. There are many people who are very good with the dimensions, they're very good with understanding the concepts of architecture. It is a vital thing of having an spatial intelligence component. So all these components like musical taste, body kinesthetic will be very much important in the sports, and as well as if we use it in day to day life while performing dance, doing any activities where hands and motor activities are involved, as well as even as small example of riding a bicycle or even driving a car. Like interpersonal relationship and intrapersonal, we, as it is the component that we will be delving further, so it is also the part of intelligence, that how well the person is able to understand themselves and are able to regulate their emotion as well as behave accordingly. That is called intrapersonal. And interpersonal intelligence is the component where the person is able to understand others and react accordingly as per the social situations. Now, all these components might be involved. Basically, all of us have these seven intelligences. It's just the degree varies from person to person. So, few of us will be higher in few of the categories, while rest of the categories would be underdeveloped. And we can always learn, but there's a maximum level we can achieve. Though there's something that it's intelligence is something that cannot be increased after a age, but yes, something sometimes we are having that ability but we have not explored it, or the chance was not given for us to evolve those. So all these activities can be evolved to a certain level if training is being provided up to the optimum level, जब तक जहाँ तक हमारी ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग इंटेलिजेंस उसके लिए है. Then the concept of IQ, basically how do we understand and check the IQ? It's the simple formula, that is MA upon CA multiplied by 100, बेसिकली हमारी मेंटल एज कितनी है और क्रोनोलॉजिकल एज कितनी है, और मल्टीप्लाइड बाय 100, उसके थ्रू हम अपनी इंटेलिजेंस फाइंड कर सकते हैं. मेंटल एज फाइंड करने के लिए वेरियस टेस्ट्स आर प्रेजेंट. ऑल दोज हु फील दैट देयर IQ, दे वांट टू चेक देयर IQ, or they want to get their children to get assessed. So there are multiple assessments that have been present through which we can understand about our IQ, how much it is, and what are the areas that we are good at, and what are the areas that we need to increase or perform better. Then the second component of emotional intelligence is emotions. Now, when we have understood about the concept of what intelligence is, now we need to understand emotional intelligence. For that, we need to be aware about what are emotions. So, as per the Oxford Dictionary, any agitation or disturbance of mind in which feeling, passion, vehement, or excited mental state is called emotion. In simple language, we can simply say that how we are basically experiencing the perceptual world through the stimuluses, through the thoughts, through the behavior, everything is being felt in forms of emotions. So there are multiple emotions, there are blends of emotions, there are primary emotion and secondary emotions, which we'll be covering in the next slide. So the numbers of emotions are basically just like colors. For example, there are primary colors like red, blue, yellow, but then comes the addition of new colors, blends. So basically, the possibility of having a color is infinite. Just by the basis of primary color blends, we can have infinite number of colors. So same like emotions, there are number of emotions, but the basic family of emotions are anger, which includes all these emotions which are multiple in nature. For example, feeling of wrath, vexation, animosity. Like the second primary emotion is sadness. The different names that we feel is like grief, sorrow, feeling gloomy, self pity, loneliness. Now, when you will see deeper into these words, so these are not synonyms, but the primary emotions that they hold is sadness. So, a person who is feeling dejected and a person who is feeling grief will not be having the same kind of thoughts or the emotions, and basically, but the main primary, the essence of both would be feeling of sadness. Same goes for fear. Now, when we are nervous, that doesn't mean that I'm feeling anxious, but the fear is the primary emotion that even anxious person is holding and a person who is just nervous is holding. So there are just the blends which have the primary essence of the primary emotion, that is fear. Other primary emotions are feeling enjoyment. Then it will include happiness, joy, relief, contentment, delight. Then one other primary emotion is feeling loved, in which sometimes we feel accepted, friendly, if you're able to feel or to feel the trust in the relationship, kindness, then surprise, disgust, and shame are the names that are added into the primary list of emotions. So these are the ones that we have discussed. All the emotions have a basic expression, that how they have been expressed. So emotions are universal. People all over the world feel these primary emotions and express the emotion almost in a similar way. Now the important question, that why we have emotions? Why, what's the need of it? So all the emotions are in essence, basically, it is our impulses to act, instant plans for handling life, and even evolution has instilled in us. So the very root of the word emotion is to move. So, the emotion leads to actions. Suppose if we are feeling happy, we will choose to do an action that is motivated through this emotion. If you are feeling sad, depressed, or anxious, you will do action that suits your emotion. So, emotions basically help us to initiate any action. In general, we can say emotions are just spices of our life. Then, what are emotions for? Emotions in each of our lives play important and unique role. and it has distinctive biological signatures. So all emotions have been felt differently. When you are happy, your body feels light. When we are sad, we are feeling very heavy. But when we are angry, our body feel very furious, hot flushes are there. And when we are anxious, we feel trembling sensations. So all the emotions are felt in the body differently. It plays the role through the brain in a different manner. So when anger is there, basically anger initiates high blood pressure. So that's why sometimes you must have seen whenever somebody is getting angry, and if they are aged or already prone to any cardiovascular disease, or there's something that they're vulnerable to it, high bp, ventilation, hypertension, all these are being uh, like anger initiate certain kind of sensations in the body, because of which the blood flow increases, due to which the cardiovascular or the anger can cause any other physical injuries as well. So that is why it's not just that emotion is being felt in a form of psychological, I would say, behavior, but it's also something that has been felt physically by everybody. If we talk about fear is the one in which it's the natural response of adrenaline, where we choose to either freeze or we choose to flight. In this also, all the hormones works in this. We the body got froze, and sometimes we are not ready to move. So sometimes it happens that we are on a road, suddenly we saw a speeding bike or a car coming across very fast towards us. Usually the same responses move aside, but sometimes we just get froze. That is the response what fears brings. We freeze ourselves sometimes. In alertness, so basically there are certain circuits in the brain that helps the hormones to, basically help us to be more attentive. So when we are vigilant about something, when we are scared, or when we are just in general, like for example, if we are going through a check in a metro, we will be very alert about where our belongings are. In this, are all the senses are heightened. So even if you're feeling alert, then all the senses would come at the work, and they will start working as per your emotion. So emotion does not only initiate your behavior reaction and a change, but it also works on our physical level. Same with the happiness. The feeling of happiness basically increase activity, where we do not feel anything that is negative in nature. So that is why, in order to, sometimes we're not able to feel happy naturally, so we take help of substances through which it help us to induce a pseudo feeling of happiness and elateness. So this is why it's an important hormone, because happiness actually is being, uh, I would say, ruled by dopamine and serotonin, which are very much responsible for feeling the pleasure of life. Sometimes when it is not present, we induce ourselves with um, substances in order to feel those. Then in love, there's a parasympathetic arousal, which is just opposite of flight and fight, which is in this basically it's a relaxation response. So whenever we are around people we love, we feel the general state of calmness. In disgust, we feel the same almost, just like how we feel with fear, but in this, the control is not the threat. It is just like we're not liking what it is happening. That is why that body repels that change. In sadness, we adjust to the significant loss, so that is why the body mechanism really slows down. So we are not either fighting, we are not in the flight mode. The body just simply go to the sympathetic system. Now, this was the understanding about what is emotion and what is intelligence. Now, we will be delving deeper to understand the concept of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is our ability to perceive and express emotion, that assimilate the emotion in a thought, understand and reason with emotion, regulate emotion, self and others. So basically in this we are trying to understand about how emotion is been causing any kind of change in behavior, and to understand how the emotion has been caused, reason with emotion, and as well as regulate it. So emotional intelligence is important for those areas in which it's not only necessary for us to understand how the emotion has been coming from, reason it, but also learn to regulate emotions. Emotional intelligence is highly important because regulation is something that we all need to learn. So, emotional intelligence is basically when we identify our emotions, we are able to regulate our emotion, then also understand how others are feeling, empathize with others, and motivate ourselves to keep this process going on. So the basic difference with intelligence and emotions is basically intelligence involves our cognitive abilities, while emotional intelligence involves our ability to express, regulate emotions of ourselves and as well as others. So it has been seen a lot that people who have good IQ have been hired. So basically, for example, you must have seen people who have scored good. Sometimes they perform very nice in interviews and they get hired for a job. But after some time, when they join the job, they are not able to adjust to the work culture or they're not able to do it properly. And sometimes, what happens because of not able to emotionally blend into the work culture, they tend to start feeling job dissatisfaction, or sometimes the company does not get along with them, and then ultimately it leads to the end of the contract. This is the role of EQ. Sometimes a person who is high on IQ might not be possibly good or high on EQ. Although, for having a good emotional intelligence, we need a good level of intellectual quotient, but it's not necessary a person who is intellectually uh, superior needs to be equally superior on an emotional quotient. So, if you understand about the brain chemistry regarding emotional intelligence, so there are three areas which work the best or work the most during our emotional intelligence part. So one is prefrontal cortex. So prefrontal cortex is something that develops after adolescence or during adolescence basically. So as a child we are not able to understand or regulate our emotions that well. That is why we become wiser, we say, and able to take basically we're able to make decisions, do well after a certain age. So basically that is because the prefrontal is being developed properly and now the cognition is involved. Then comes a limbic system. This is the most activated part of our brain that influences how we are living our emotional experiences. This involves thalamus, hypothalamus, basal ganglia, amygdala, and hippocampus. Amygdala is the one where we feel the most emotions because of, and hippocampus is responsible for all our memories. There are five components of emotional intelligence. First is self awareness, second is self regulation, third is motivation, then empathy and social skills. In self awareness, it is just our ability to recognize and understand our own emotions. It is the first and foremost building block of emotional intelligence because without understanding our emotion, it would be impossible for us to understand others. So, to regulate ourselves, first we need to understand and be aware of how we are feeling and what we are feeling. Second is self regulation. Self regulation is concerned with how we can control and manage our emotions. After getting aware about, suppose we are feeling angry, now the second step is for us to understand how to regulate this emotion because our emotion will manage or initiate our impulses and behaviors. So, this will also help us to manage our impulses, increase our self control, and trustworthiness towards, and adaptability would be increased. Third is motivation. Motivation includes our personal drive to improve, achieve, and commit to our goals. So sometimes we say that I'm not feeling motivated enough to do our work. That is because our motivation levels are low. So people who are naturally motivated, always people, those people have a high component of motivation in their emotional quotient. Sometimes it happens that we have a variable motivation. It's not like that every time I'm high on motivation or not every time I'm low on motivation. In that areas, motivation is not been influenced by EQ. It is just a situational factor which can be worked and understood by that why the resistance in getting motivated is coming from. Now, empathy. Empathy can be defined as our ability to understand how other people are feeling and being able to recognize and understand and behave accordingly. So, The first three components were for the self. But now empathy and social skills are the components that is related to others. In empathy, we try to understand about how we are feeling as well as how other a person is feeling in order to understand it from their perspective and modulate our behavior as per the feeling of other person. When we talk about empathy, it is different from sympathy because in empathy, we are trying to understand the thing from the perspective of the other person, but in sympathy, we sympathize with them because we are able to relate to them. So, in empathy, we are not trying to relate or mix our emotions with theirs, we are just working as a person who is able to see and understand how they are feeling. Now, the last component is social skills. So, the sum term itself sums up like the social skills covers a wide variety of social skills and as well as competence, which are personally rooted into the confidence and the self-esteem of the person. So, the better the self-esteem and the confidence of the person, the better the social skills of that person would be. So why is it important for us? It helps us to become an effective leader. It helps us to understand the feelings of others and as well as become more self-aware and understand ourselves and others on a deeper level. So the things that will help us are basically the abilities or the skills that are important are the self control abilities, as well as we are able to handle the stress and the conflict better. Then greater level of empathy is present, and then we are able to network better, strengthen our relationships and interpersonal relationship in a more mature and more persistent manner. So emotional self-awareness is also the component of which is present in life. And then how do we manage emotions? There are few of the techniques that we will be learning. Harnessing emotions, like when we if we have learned how to harness, it will be like we are more responsible, we can take and pay attention to the task in hand, we will be less impulsive and be able to take the self control even more of the life. Why empathy is needed? Because reading emotion is like taking another person's perspective. That will help us to have a more improved relationship with others when we are sensitive towards the feeling of others. So now we will be learning how to develop emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence can be learned, and it is like in the early years of life, but it can be developed later and improved. So there are three to four major things that we can work upon. First is confidence that you can do it, your body and your behavior and the world have a sense of mastery and the control is something that you can provide. Having this confidence help us to build emotional intelligence, being curious about the things and the pleasure that you will be receiving as a consequence of developing EI, and then having an intention to actually act upon what are your goals. Having self control, relatedness, and capacity to communicate and cooperativeness are the few other of the skills that would be required for you to actually learn and to develop EI. Now, how to specifically increase each component? For self awareness, there are a few techniques that we can use. For example, keeping a journal, if we start meditating, practice writing our thoughts down, paying attention to our thoughts and emotions, or do positive self talk and start reflecting on experiences can also increase our self awareness. The things that we can use to increase self regulation is we can be mindful of other thoughts and emotions. We can learn distress tolerance skills in which we try to understand about the problem as well as we try to regulate through using distancing, delaying the response. All these things help us to understand the distress and as well as make us more tolerant toward any kind of stressor. Then look at the challenges as an opportunity to learn. Look and reflect back all your coping mechanism that has not been serving you well and see wherever the trigger has been acting out and you are able to behave or act in a certain way that is not helping. Then cognitive reframing is something where you can identify that what is the thought that has been triggering those kind of emotions and try to understand that thought and break it down to an alternative explanation that makes more sense and does not bring too much of heavy emotions. If it case it doesn't work, sometimes it is always okay to accept how we are feeling, but rather than feeling it every day, give yourself a break and a time and completely feel that emotion, be with the emotion and try to understand that where and why it is coming from. Then how to improve your social skills. You can find you can do role plays, you can practice social skills, you can start already finding some icebreakers that can start with, like start up any conversation. You can practice your active listening, and as well as you can watch your body language through verbal and non-verbal communication. Then for building empathy, it's simply practicing um, how willing you are to share your own feelings to others, because it's difficult to understand other person if we are not able to trust them enough with our feelings. So it's okay to first be more confident in sharing your feelings, try to understand the other person, be open when we are having the conversation, try to see their perspective as well from a non-judgmental attitude, as well as talk to new people and develop it by, like, if you have any confusion, if you have any topic to discuss it with multiple people, so that you will learn to take perspective, you will learn to take perspective behind their emotions, how they've been feeling. So the more you expose to certain behavioral experiments, the better your social skills and empathy will get. Then finally, how to improve your motivation. So if we will be too much dependent on the rewards that we have receiving from outside, the internal motivation wouldn't be that much. So that's why basically being dependent more on why is it important to you emotionally through your values, belief system, or any other thing that has been intrinsically motivated, that would help you to persist longer than the extrinsic reward. So you can focus and break down your task into small and measurable goals. You can introduce yourself to the interesting things, keep your schedule a little jammed up where you are doing different things, so that the monotony doesn't hit and you do not lose the motivation. As well as work with the person who finds or have a similar kind of interest, so that you have a co-worker who can help you, motivate you, and as well as you'll be able to track your time. Then interpersonal effective functioning, so last component of our this presentation, in which we will be using 2 3 techniques to in order to improve our interpersonal effectiveness. So this is our acronym. It's a quick way to understand it how we can be effective in our relationships. It's good to always describe yourself and the event, not just the facts, and basically express yourself how you feel about the situation. Learn and work on your assertiveness if you feel you lack it. Reinforce people or reward people for responding positively or who are with you. Be mindful of your actions, maintain your position, and appear confident, not just with your appearance but also the way you're communicating. If you're making an eye contact, maintain it properly and then negotiate. If you so basically negotiation is like not just giving up or just agreeing upon what other person is saying. So with the help of assertiveness, you can negotiate and make a win-win situation where both of the parties are getting some kind of benefit out of the situation. In relationship effectiveness, give skill is something that we use a lot. So G stands for being gentle. Basically, you are not supposed to blame, attack, or threat the other person. Show interest into the other person, validate the other points of view and opinion and feelings, and as well as keep easy, like for example, keep it light. You do not have to like become too much of defensive, you do not have to become too much of submissive. It's just like try to make a balance, keep the situation light and humorous. And the last skill is fast. That is for the conditions where we feel the self-respect is something that is being sacrificed. For example, in fast technique, where F stands for being fair to yourself and as well as for the other person. Apologize not for making a request, but sometimes, so basically, if you are making an apology, should be for a mistake, not just because you have an opinion or if you are disagreeing with somebody. or if you're requesting somebody, these are not the things that you need to apologize for. But if you feel that the mistake has been genuine, then only we are supposed to apologize. Stick to the value. If you have any opinion or value system for yourself, you don't have to be like give it to them. It's just like agree to disagree wali situation ke अंदर we need to come to, and then being truthful. We do not have to lie, do not have to help uh, act helpless or feel submissive. We have to be true to ourselves and as well as with the other person in order to keep the self respect in a relationship intact. At last, anyone can be angry, that is easy, but be angry with the right person, with the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose and the right way. That is not easy. But the person who is having an intelligence quotient high can do all of these or even can learn to develop these. Thank you. If there are any questions, you can post it into the comment section. We will be answering those.